Okay, it's day 171, and just to be sure, I checked into the plum book and made sure my brother wasn't in there, and he wasn't. So, the plum book, if you don't remember, is a listing of jobs available in the public sector. These are civil servants' jobs, starting at the presidential appointees down to Senate confirmation to just presidential appointees without Senate confirmation, and then, of course, the all ubiquitous SES, Senior Executive Service, which is sort of a union, if you will, at the top executive levels inside the government. What I like to do sometimes is take these names or different keywords and go through the plum book and just show people the number of occurrences. And I realize this is kind of the hard work of research and maybe not particularly interesting for all the cat fights on Twitter, etc., cat fights on YouTube. But it is kind of the stuff that makes or breaks hypotheses and kind of moving the ball forward. So, anyway, if you remember before, I just took the occurrence of the word homeland and I saw 39 occurrences over here, 39 occurrences in the Plum Book. And my theory here is that the DHS, or the Department of Homeland Security, is sort of used as a wedge or a funnel for the DoD to kind of insert people into a kind of a national control mechanism, a U.S. control mechanism. So the same techniques used overseas to gain control of kind of an undercurrent or a party or a union like the SEU, let's say, and then you would take over that labor union, like let's say Poland, way back when Poland was being overthrown. You use that union to do all your communications, protect your communications until the time of overthrow. Is that the same thing that DoD is doing in the United States with SES? Is sort of the theory. So if you don't remember Lisa Monaco, we'll just go down the list here. This is really the first occurrence. She's really kind of brought up as a young, hard-charging young female attorney as a DHS expert. And then if you remember the kind of the PR shots in the White House, here's Lisa Monaco, of course, Susan Rice and Samantha Power. They all sit on the couch together all day like that and go through their papers. So these are kind of glamour shots. Obviously, this is not a very realistic working situation here in the White House. So, and I understand a certain amount of this. This is good PR and so forth. She's from the University of Chicago and then got her pedigree at Harvard. So moving along in the Plum Book, she's not even senior executive services. You can see over here, she is, sorry, just presidential appointee. So we'll go quickly through the different appointees in Homeland Security, and most of the folks are not listed. They're this, kind of a ditto kind of thing. Career incumbent there, career incumbent there, ditto there, and then career incumbent again. This Thomas F. Atkins, interesting. So what I do on these is I drill down on two or three just to get a feel, for people to get a feel rather than just end the discussion and not do any more detailed research on the SES book. So here's Thomas Atkins, was once the former acting Secretary of Defense. I don't know if that is who was the Secretary of Defense he was acting for. But he's got his own group now. He's left in 2012. Okay, I'm trying to think of what shakeup happened inside the Department of Defense at that time. Senator from Nebraska, I believe, was the senator, then became the Secretary of Defense. But anyway, he's got a new company now. He's broken away from or he's joined this other group here. But here he is, the Assistant Secretary of Defense here, cyber strategy and so forth, and then Homeland Security. And then, of course, the obligatory time at Raytheon. You got to know where those cruise missiles are at all times. And then, of course, a visiting fellow here at the Homeland Security Institute. And here we go back to the Coast Guard. And this seems to be, the Coast Guard seems to be the kind of the key inflection point for kind of entering people into DHS. Seems to be quite a bit of emphasis there. Border security, so forth, operations group. And My only question is, I look at all these different resumes and I see all this expertise, but the simplest questions that can't be answered in Washington about what's going back and forth on Imran Awan's server. What are the terabytes going back and forth at Imran Awan's server? A lot of this emphasis starts on FEMA. I notice, and there's a similar emphasis with the Army, with FEMA on some of these resumes. So he kind of comes up the ranks through FEMA here. So I'll just quickly go back here, look at some other resumes. Vacant, career incumbent, vacant. Matthew Gula, that's a GS position. So Jay Johnson, of course, we all know. Mayorkas was kind of the guy who was kind of drummed out of the service because of dirty dealings. And Erin Walls, she's just GS, so we won't talk about her. And again, when you get to the ES positions, again, you see that just a lot of vacancies. And again, John Roth was the Inspector General of Homeland Security, another career incumbent. Just not a lot of data. The only one person really we get any data is the Coast Guard guy. And is that because that, I don't know, Americans have an affinity for the Coast Guard? Here's John Roth. We still don't have an Inspector General for Homeland Security. Again, that's another position, yet another Inspector General position that's not filled with the Trump administration. I don't know if that's by design or on purpose. But again, here are the whistleblower protection ombudsman, vacant. Okay, so you've seen, really, there's only one, here again, ditto, only one position we've seen so far in the ES, again, vacant, of who actually runs these things. And now, here, this isn't really Homeland Security. So those are all the occurrences of the word Homeland Security. And my takeaway would be we need to know these names, and we need much more scrutiny on if you're going to be in Homeland Security, if you're going to be an expert, if you're going to be the Assistant Secretary of Defense, if you're going to have all this border security and all this knowledge and all these consultancies, all these groups, and all this expertise, you have to apply it to the most pressing need in the country right now, which is the Awans. Terabytes to Pakistan, hundreds of suspicious payments, thousands of suspicious logins. If you don't apply your expertise to the most pressing problems, what good is the expertise?